Meet Sarah. She makes $95,000 a year. She lives in a luxury apartment, drives a new car, and owns every gadget you can imagine. She also hasn't slept in a week because she's 2 missed paychecks away from total bankruptcy. Now, meet Alex. He lives next door, earns $52,000, nearly half of Sarah's salary, yet she has 18 months of expenses in the bank and total peace of mind. Most people think wealth is about how much you earn. It's not. It's about a hidden math of stuff that most people ignore until it's too late. Today, I'm showing you the 10 minimalist money rules that made Alex wealthy while Sarah stays broke. Here's the concept that is going to reframe every purchase you make for the rest of your life. Everything you own costs money twice. The first cost is obvious. It's the purchase price, the number on the receipt. Simple. But there is a second cost, and most people completely ignore it. And here's the wild part. The second cost is often larger than the first. The second cost includes storage, maintenance, mental energy, and something called opportunity cost. Let me break that down with something really concrete. Let's talk about a treadmill. You buy a treadmill, maybe it costs you $1,000. You feel great about it. You've got a home gym now. Except, a treadmill takes up roughly 20 square feet when you account for clearance space. And in most urban areas, space costs somewhere between $30 and $50 per square foot per year in implicit rent. So you're paying somewhere between $600 and $1,000 per year just to store this thing. Every year. On top of what you already paid for it. And honestly, it's probably just hanging clothes most days. You know it is. Okay, what about a boat? The industry rule of thumb says annual maintenance on a boat runs about 10% of its value. So a $30,000 boat costs you $3,000 every single year just to own, even if you never take it on the water. Not counting storage, not counting insurance, not counting registration. And then there's the mental cost, and this one people really underestimate. Every item you own occupies a small slice of your attention. It needs to be cleaned, organized, maintained, insured, worried about. Researchers have actually found that visual clutter increases cortisol, that's your stress hormone, and literally reduces your brain's ability to focus. Your stuff is stressing you out in ways you can't consciously feel. And then, the big one, opportunity cost. Every dollar tied up in a possession is a dollar that isn't investing in growing. That $15,000 home gym sitting in your spare room? That could have been $15,000 in an index fund, and compounding at a historically average return over 15 years, that's somewhere around $50,000. You didn't just buy a home gym. You bought a home gym instead of future financial freedom. When you add up every layer of the second cost, many possessions end up costing more to own than they cost to buy. The purchase price is just the entry fee. Minimalists understand this intuitively. They're not avoiding nice things because they hate nice things. They're avoiding most things because they've done this math and decided the stuff isn't worth it. Rule 1. Calculate cost per use before any purchase. Before you buy anything, estimate how many times you will realistically use it. Be honest. Then divide the total cost by that number. That gives you the cost per use, and that's the only honest measure of value. A $200 jacket worn twice costs $100 per wear. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is actually cheaper in any meaningful sense. Now run this on that $300 kitchen gadget you've been eyeing. Maybe you'll use it twice a year. First year cost per use? $150. That is an obscenely expensive way to make spiralized zucchini. Meanwhile, a $30 tool you use every single week costs less than 60 cents per use over the first year. Here's where this gets interesting, though. The math doesn't always say, don't buy it. Sometimes it says, this is an incredible value. A $2,000 mattress that you sleep on every single night for 10 years? That's about 55 cents per use. For something that directly affects your health and energy every day, that's extraordinary value. A quality espresso machine you use daily? Probably less than $1 per use, and it likely saves you money compared to coffee shop visits. The math cuts through marketing, through emotion, through the fear of missing out. It reveals what's genuinely worth buying versus what just felt exciting in the moment. Rule 2. Apply the replacement test to everything you already own. Walk through your home right now, or picture it in your head, and look at your stuff. Everything. And for each item, ask yourself one question. If this disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. Not, would I feel bad if it was gone? Would you actually open your wallet to replace it? Would you buy another fondue set? Another bread maker? Those jeans you haven't worn in a year and a half? For most of the stuff in most people's homes, the honest answer is no. And that's the whole point. These things exist in your life through inertia, not intention. They were impulse purchases. Gifts you felt obligated to keep. Leftovers from old hobbies or old versions of who you thought you were going to become. And here's the uncomfortable truth. These items have negative value. They cost you space, mental energy, and maintenance without giving you anything back. Every hour you spend organizing around things you wouldn't replace, cleaning near them, thinking about them, that's time stolen from things that actually matter. Minimalists go through this process regularly. They sell what has value, donate what someone else can use, discard what serves nobody. The first time you do it, it feels uncomfortable, maybe a little weird. But most people describe what comes after as this unexpected lightness. Rooms feel bigger, decisions feel simpler, cleaning takes half as long. You actually know where things are. The psychological weight of stuff you don't need is real, and removing it creates mental space that is genuinely hard to put into words until you experience it. Rule 3. Never upgrade out of boredom. Okay, this one I need you to sit with for a second, because this is where a lot of high earners silently hemorrhage wealth without ever realizing it. Here's the pattern. Something works perfectly fine. A new version comes out, and suddenly the thing that worked perfectly fine feels inadequate. The TV works, but the new model has slightly better contrast. The phone is completely functional, but the new release has a marginally improved camera. The car runs reliably, but the New Year's model has updated styling. The furniture serves its purpose, but they've grown tired of looking at it. These upgrades feel like progress. They are actually wealth destruction dressed up as improvement. Here's a statistic that honestly stunned me when I first looked into it. The average American replaces their smartphone every 2 to 3 years, frequently while the previous phone still works perfectly. Over 30 years, that habit alone costs somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 in unnecessary purchases. Apply that logic across every single category where upgrade culture operates. Electronics, cars, furniture, clothing, and the lifetime cost easily clears $200,000. $200,000. Gone. Not because anything broke, because of boredom and marketing. Minimalists define functional very clearly. A thing remains functional until it genuinely cannot perform its required task. Boredom is not failure. Wanting novelty is not failure. A newer version existing is absolutely not failure. Actual mechanical breakdown, failure to do the job it's supposed to do, that is failure. Everything else? That's just marketing convincing you to solve a problem you don't have. Rule 4. Create friction for spending and ease for saving. Here's something I think gets massively underrated in personal finance conversations. Willpower is not a strategy. Willpower depletes throughout the day. It gets worn down by decisions, by stress, by tiredness. Someone relying on willpower to avoid impulse purchases will eventually fail. That's not weakness, it's biology. The people who are actually winning financially have figured out a different approach. They engineer their environment to make the right choice the automatic choice. Spending friction looks like removing your stored credit card numbers from online retailers. It looks like deleting shopping apps from your phone, unsubscribing from promotional emails, setting a mandatory 24-hour waiting period before any non-essential purchase. It means not going to stores unless you have a specific thing you need. Saving ease looks like setting up automatic transfers to your investment accounts on payday, so the money moves before you ever see it. It means keeping only a small buffer in your everyday checking account. It means treating savings and investment contributions like a fixed expense, not an afterthought. These structural changes matter more than willpower ever could. And that 24-hour rule on purchases? Studies consistently show it eliminates roughly 70% of impulse buys, because the desire for most things fades within 24 hours if you don't act on it immediately. The urgency you feel in the store or on the app, that's engineered by the platform. The feeling almost always passes. Minimalists don't trust themselves to consistently make great decisions under pressure, so they design systems that make good decisions automatic. Rule 5. Count your possessions regularly. I know this sounds a little extreme when you first hear it. Stick with me, because the logic is really solid. Counting forces awareness, and awareness prevents accumulation. Without awareness, stuff just quietly multiplies. Pick any category right now. How many shirts do you own? Most people guess low. They've got 12, maybe 15. Then they actually count and it's 38, or 47, or more. Here's what happens when you know the actual number. Buying another one feels different. You're not adding a shirt, you're taking your collection from 47 to 48. And when it's framed that way, the absurdity becomes visible. Minimalists use maximum thresholds. Maybe 30 items of clothing total. Maybe 15 books at any given time. Maybe a strict one in, one out policy. Anything new coming in means something existing goes out. These constraints don't feel like deprivation once you're used to them. They feel like clarity. Each acquisition becomes a conscious decision, not a default yes. Rule 6. Rent or borrow before you buy. Here's an uncomfortable pattern I see constantly. Someone gets excited about a new hobby or activity, immediately goes out and buys all the gear, uses it intensively for about 3 weeks, and then it sits in the garage for the next 4 years. Ski equipment from the winter they thought they'd ski regularly. Photography gear from when they imagined becoming a serious photographer. Music equipment from a band that played exactly 2 shows. Minimalists call this the museum of past enthusiasm, and avoiding it is actually really simple. Rent or borrow first. Test the interest before committing to ownership. Want to get into camping? Rent gear for the first couple trips. Want to try woodworking? Borrow tools or use a makerspace. Interested in kayaking? Rent a few times before buying. This does 2 things. First, it reveals whether the enthusiasm is real or just temporary excitement. Many interests genuinely fade after the initial exploration phase, and it is so much better to find that out while you're renting. Second, if the interest turns out to be genuine, renting first teaches you exactly what you need. First-time buyers almost always buy too much or buy the wrong things. A few rental experiences teach you exactly what matters before you spend real money. The financial impact of this rule over a lifetime is massive. Closets across the country are full of remnants from hobbies that lasted 3 weeks. The rent-first approach keeps your money and your space flexible. Rule 7. Understand the lifestyle multiplier effect. This is the rule that catches people most off guard because the effect is invisible until someone points it out to you. Every major possession connects to other possessions. It's almost never just the thing itself. A boat requires a trailer. A trailer requires a hitch-equipped vehicle. It requires storage fees, maintenance supplies, safety equipment, and appropriate clothing. What looks like a single purchase is actually the entry fee into an entire ecosystem of spending. A home pool. The pool needs chemicals, cleaning equipment, a cover, furniture around it, maintenance tools, and often landscaping to complement the installation. A motorcycle requires gear, potentially a truck or trailer for transportation to riding locations, storage, specialized maintenance equipment. Before any major purchase, the real question isn't, how much does this cost? It's, how much does this whole ecosystem cost? Because when you account for everything, a $5,000 purchase often turns into an $8,000 or $12,000 ongoing commitment. And here's the thing, the multiplier works just as powerfully in reverse. Eliminating one major possession often eliminates an entire category of related expenses. Sell the boat, and suddenly there's no storage fee, no insurance, no registration, no annual maintenance, no towing costs. The savings extend far beyond the sale price. Every time you're considering a big purchase, ask yourself, what does this thing need? What will I have to buy to support it? Add all of that up. That's the real price. Rule 8. Define enough before you start earning. Here's what quietly traps some of the highest earners I've ever seen content about. They never define what enough looks like. So no matter how much they make, they keep spending more, and they never arrive anywhere. Income goes up, lifestyle expands to match. The new lifestyle becomes the new normal. They need more income to feel like they're progressing. The cycle just continues, indefinitely. There's actually a name for this. It's called lifestyle inflation. And it's why you can find people earning $300,000 a year who feel just as financially stressed as people earning $80,000. Because their expenses expanded to match their income at every step. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Decide what enough looks like before you get there. Decide what kind of home is genuinely sufficient. What level of transportation meets your actual needs? What material lifestyle constitutes real comfort and satisfaction? And then earn toward that target. Don't move the goalpost. This might mean deciding a $350,000 home is enough, even if you could eventually afford $600,000. It might mean deciding a $30,000 car meets your needs, even when colleagues are driving cars that cost twice that. Defining enough creates a finish line. Without it, you're running an infinite race where the lifestyle always expands slightly faster than the income. But here's where it gets genuinely exciting. The person who defines enough at $60,000 a year and then starts earning $150,000, that extra $90,000 a year goes directly toward financial freedom. Every year, compounding. Meanwhile, someone earning the exact same income but perpetually redefining enough upward, they might be saving almost nothing. Same income, completely different financial trajectories. The only difference is whether someone defined enough or not. Rule 9. Measure wealth by optionality, not accumulation. This is probably the deepest mindset shift in this whole video, and honestly the one I think matters most. The conventional view of wealth is about what you have. The house size, the car, the watches, the visible markers of success. Minimalists measure it differently. They measure wealth by what they can choose. Can you leave a job that's destroying your mental health without financial panic? Can you take 6 months away from work to handle a serious family situation? Can you move to a different city for a relationship or an opportunity? Can you start a business without guaranteed income? Can you say no to a high-paying opportunity that would compromise your values or your time? Those choices, that freedom, that's what real wealth actually buys. And here's the thing. Those choices are only available to people who've built substantial margin between their income and their expenses. The person earning $200,000 but spending $195,000 has almost no optionality. They're completely chained to their income. One bad month and everything falls apart. The person earning $80,000 but spending $45,000? They can absorb disruptions, take real risks, make decisions based on what they actually want rather than what they financially have to do. The money tied up in a car you don't need is money that can't buy your freedom when you need it. The home equity locked in a house that's bigger than you require is equity that can't fund a career transition or an extended break. Every purchase isn't just exchanging money for an object. It's trading optionality for possession. It's trading future freedom for present stuff. Sometimes that trade is absolutely worth it. Often it isn't. Rule 10. Practice cyclical decluttering rather than annual purging. Here's the mistake most people make when they discover minimalism. They do one massive, cathartic cleanout. They bag up everything, drop it at the donation center, feel incredible, and then they slowly, quietly accumulate right back to the starting point. Within 2 years, they're exactly where they were. The purge felt like action. The reaccumulation happened invisibly. The fix is cyclical decluttering. Small, regular reviews rather than rare, massive purges. A weekly glance at what's coming into your home. A monthly evaluation of one category. A quarterly check of overall accumulation trends. This approach catches the creep early, before it rebuilds to overwhelming levels. Removing 3 items per week is totally sustainable. It barely registers. Over a year, that's 150 items that don't quietly take over your space and your budget. Doing one massive purge every January? That feels like a project. It gets postponed, it's overwhelming, and the habit never really sticks. The cyclical approach also does something the annual purge doesn't. It builds genuine awareness. When you regularly evaluate your stuff, you start noticing patterns. You see which categories tend to expand. You recognize which emotional states trigger shopping. You figure out which specific marketing tactics actually work on you personally. And that awareness lets you prevent accumulation rather than just treating it after the fact. Okay, so we've got 10 rules. And I want to give you something concrete to do with them, starting today. This week, just this week, walk through your home with the replacement test in mind. Find 10 things you genuinely would not spend money to replace if they disappeared. Sell them, donate them, or get rid of them. That's all. Just 10 things. Notice how it feels. This month, implement the 24-hour rule for all non-essential purchases. Before you buy anything that isn't food or a bill, you wait 24 hours. That's it. Track how many purchase desires survive the waiting period. I'm willing to bet the number surprises you. This quarter, count your possessions in 3 categories. Clothing, kitchen items, and entertainment are usually the best starting points. Set a reasonable maximum for each one based on what you actually use. And at some point soon, sit down and write out what enough actually looks like for you. What home is sufficient? What car meets your real needs? What lifestyle makes you genuinely comfortable? Write it down. Revisit it when temptation comes. Here's what I think is the most important thing to understand about minimalism and money. The relationship runs both ways. Owning less creates more money, but having more money also makes owning less feel natural. When your savings account is actually strong and your investments are growing, the compulsive urge to buy stuff diminishes. The deep psychological need that drives most consumption, the need for security, for status, for some feeling of control, gets genuinely satisfied by financial strength. You don't need the stuff to feel successful, because your actual financial position tells you a different story. People stuck in consumption cycles often can't articulate why they buy so much. The truth is usually that spending temporarily fills an emotional void that financial insecurity creates. It's comfort buying, control buying, status buying. Address the insecurity through real financial strength, and a lot of that compulsion dissolves on its own. This creates a virtuous cycle. Spending less leads to saving more. Saving more creates genuine security. Security reduces the emotional drive to spend. Reduced spending accelerates the saving. Each turn of the cycle builds momentum for the next. The opposite cycle is just as powerful, and way more common. Spending everything creates insecurity. Insecurity drives more spending as temporary emotional relief. More spending deepens the insecurity. The cycle continues until something external forces a crisis. The choice between those 2 cycles determines financial outcomes more than income ever will. High earners stuck in the destructive cycle build nothing. Modest earners who found the virtuous cycle build everything. Look, I want to be really direct with you about something. The research on this is actually pretty clear. Beyond a baseline of security and genuine comfort, additional purchases contribute almost nothing to life satisfaction. Almost nothing. Yet most people spend as if happiness scales linearly with consumption. Like if one nice thing made life 10% better, 10 nice things will make it 100% better. It doesn't work that way. Minimalists align their behavior with what the research actually shows. They spend enough to be comfortable, and then they redirect the rest toward freedom rather than accumulation. They end up with less stuff and more life. That second apartment, the one belonging to someone earning $52,000 with 18 months of savings and 20% invested every paycheck, that's not luck. That's not even especially high income. That's what consistently applying these rules looks like over time. The other apartment, the one belonging to someone earning $95,000 whose 2 missed paychecks from crisis, That's what happens when someone never questions the assumption that more stuff equals a better life. Both of those lifestyles are genuinely available to you, right now, regardless of what you're currently earning. The only question is whether you want to own your possessions, or whether you're okay with your possessions owning you. The math strongly favors the first option, and so does the peace of mind. Start this week. One rule, one change. That's all it takes to break the cycle and start building something real.